Good evening, you're tuned into Bizworld. Malaysia's economy surged 16.1% in the second quarter of this year after 4 consecutive quarters of contraction. The Bank Negara Governor, Datuk Nur Syamsiah Muhammad Yunus, said the growth was underpinned by the improvement in domestic demand and continued robust exports performance. However, the strong growth was also attributed to the low base at 17.1% contraction recorded in the second quarter last year.
Growth improved in the second quarter of 2021, but economic activity was weighed by the FMCO in the later part of the quarter. Growth is expected to trough in the third quarter before improving in the fourth quarter this year, in line with strong external demand conditions and the easing of containment measures.
She explained economic activity picked up at the start of the second quarter but slowed down thereafter following the re-imposition of stricter containment measures nationwide under Phase 1 of the Full Movement Control Order. All economic sectors registered an improvement, particularly the manufacturing sector. On expenditure, growth was driven by higher private sector spending and strong trade activity. Headline inflation increased to 4.1% during the quarter, while core inflation remained stable at 0.7%. Meanwhile, the governor said Malaysia's GDP growth for 2021 is now projected to be between 3 and 4%, revised downward from an earlier projection of between 6 and 7%. The revised growth target is largely due to the re-imposition of the nationwide COVID-19 containment measures following the spike in the infection rate.
However, the near-term growth outlook is highly dependent on COVID-19 risk factors. Having said that, going into 2022, growth recovery is projected to accelerate, supported by a normalization in economic activity amid a high vaccination rate and continued improvement in external demand.
She also said the growth trajectory will depend on the ability to contain the epidemic and materialization of health outcomes from the nationwide vaccination program. This will allow economic sectors to gradually reopen and provide some lift to household and business sentiments.
RCEP, the world's biggest trade agreement. How can it facilitate recovery and realignment in the Asia-Pacific region? COVID-19 vaccine diplomacy. How will its outreach by regional powers impact other countries? This week, Money Matters speaks to the Institute of Strategic and International Studies.
Join me, Rizal Hazri, the CEO of ISIS Malaysia, this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Malaysia will need to look at the overall structure of its tax system in the long run if the country wants to expand significant capital during the pandemic. Deloitte Malaysia Indirect Tax Executive Director Senturan Elalingam said all options should be on the table and thoroughly evaluated, and the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, would form part of the discussion. The Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development has recommended that a broader review of Malaysia's tax system is needed to address the fiscal imbalance caused by the pandemic. In the medium to longer term, replacing the Sales and Services Tax, SST, with the GST from a tax policy perspective makes sense. He added that recent attempts to widen the scope have resulted in a lot of unintended consequences, such as multiple levels of tax being paid. Thus, any decision to widen the SST would need very careful considerations. Local companies are encouraged to invest in solar energy to significantly reduce the carbon footprint. According to the Deputy CEO of United Overseas Bank, UOB Malaysia, Ng Wei Wei, to promote solar energy, UOB has launched its U-Solar program with 0% interest loan package to help customers address their cost concerns in relation to installing and operating solar power systems for future sustainability.
What has UOB done to drive the ESG agenda? Firstly, I would say we have integrated ESG considerations into our lending policies and have also implemented responsible financing, which prohibits the bank from financing activities or projects that are high risk.
Local companies are encouraged to invest in solar energy to significantly reduce the carbon footprint. According to the Deputy CEO of United Overseas Bank UOB Malaysia, it is to promote solar energy. UOB has launched its youth solar program with 0% interest loan. That's all the time we have for Bizworld. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for watching and keep tuning in to TV3.